I envy you. As an envoy, I hope to become an agent of change and see more of our galaxy as well. If you could complete the path, it...
All must serve.
Granting them an audience. This is exactly the impression we don't want to give.
Please, Jamal. Don't you see how all this works in our favor? It's not up for discussion. I won't risk what we've worked so hard to achieve. It's done.
No, you'd risk our future and reputation as a house. But you are the chosen elder.
Ah, don't patronize me. The Great Serpent spared our house. We are favored here. And shouldn't you get back to the council? We can't afford to be absent at a time like this.
I guarantee I'm not missing much. But you're right. I'll be heading back soon enough. May the Great Serpent bless you. You be working with my sister? I was on a walk nearing Jinan Plaza. My view of the Citadel was clear. I saw only a swirl of energy surrounding the Citadel and the crater that surrounded it. Serpent guide you.
What Mujin did was bold, and in no way acceptable or condoned. So, Akris has sent our newest Vindicator to inquire about Sahima. Don't worry, Jimal's already told me all about you. I'm Razma, Elder of House Kadik and head of the Ministry of Conjunction. The Ministry of Conjunction is one of the 3 government branches of our society. We deal in information to ensure the High Council can make educated decisions. Most of our work is highly classified. Even the High Council itself may not be aware of all that we're involved in. House Kadik is one of the 3 noble houses under House Varun. We've a reputation on being the more moderate of the 3. Not as fervent as House Vithal, and not as passive as House Dolkef. We're also largely associated with the Ministry of Conjunction, since I lead the department. Well, it's also an honor to meet one as interesting as yourself. I wouldn't have suspected an outsider to be made promised. But who am I to argue with the Great Serpent's choice? I know the Council is looking to Sahima for answers, but the truth is, she's been taken, along with other members of the House. They're being held hostage by zealots, and now they're demanding negotiations. Because right now, this situation is a matter for the Ministry of Conjunction. As much as the Council thinks it's their business, it's not. At least not yet. They want Sahima, and we're trying to produce her. What happened to Dazra was a cataclysmic event. The city may seem in order now, but those first few days, it was chaos. And the Zealots took advantage. The Zealots have yet to name specifics. At best, they'll demand an inordinate amount of credits or firearms. Worst case, a seat at the High Council or even the reinstatement of their house. House Maline. They know we can't risk Sahima for Dazra's sake. So, they won't hold back when it comes to demands. They had a house. House Maline was abandoned a long time ago, but there are some who'd want to see it reinstated. House Maline was fully dedicated to Jandar Varun. They objected when his brother Jarek was chosen to take over as leader. They knew he would bring an end to the Serpent's Crusade. It's why they abandoned agents doing everything possible to find them. But we too suffered losses. We need to be here, present. I couldn't risk more lives. It's the only reason I even agreed to these negotiations. But now that you're here, I can finally take action. Of course. But the negotiations offered a chance to get Sahima and the others back without putting lives at risk. I saw the chance and had to take it. As demanding as I'd expected the Zealots to be, I fully intended to do everything in my power to bring them within reason. And that is where the issue lies. I don't know where the Zealots are keeping Sahima, but I have a good idea who does. Their name is Merrick. Merrick is a Kadik, and they also work for me as an agent in the Ministry of Conjunction. This is where matters get complicated. Once I made the decision to go through with the negotiations, it wasn't necessary. Now that the situation has changed, well, that's going to be your job now. As I said, Merrick works for me in the Ministry of Conjunction. They've been establishing an inside relationship with the Zealots for some time now, on my orders. Forcing them to give up the information could jeopardize all they've worked for. So don't expect them to be forthcoming. Get the information any way you see fit, as long as no physical harm comes to them. The Zealots don't trust easily. If their location was discovered, Merrick would most likely be the first they'd suspect. They'd never trust them or any agent of House Kadik again. What better way to surveil a threat? It's important for us to know what the Zealots may be targeting, to stay one step ahead. The people of Dazra look to us elders for strength and guidance. We cannot fail them at a time like this. Don't let my composure fool you, promised? It's neither easy nor something I take lightly. Merrick is proud of what they've accomplished, so I doubt they'll give up information easily. If being persuasive isn't your strong suit, perhaps appealing to their substantial ego may help, if you can stomach it.
You're no member of House Kadik. What are you doing here? And you are? Ah, the heretic turned promised. I was wondering when our paths would cross. So tell me, what would a chosen one such as yourself want with someone like me? Perhaps you need to lay off the koza, my friend. You're talking nonsense. Absolutely ridiculous. So much for confidentiality. I guess this means the High Council is still asking Auntie Razma where Sahima is. And if you're here making demands, she obviously has decided to make use of you rather than undergo sincere negotiations. I see what's going on here. On the contrary, I know how important it is to keep that information confidential. I've worked hard to obtain my position with the Zealots. And like I've told Razma 1,000 times, I have no reason to believe they're going to hurt my dear cousins, especially Sahima. So, as far as I'm concerned, that information stays with me. Sahima isn't just being held hostage, they're putting her to work. The Zealots aren't stupid. They know what Sahima was involved in, and if they can beat us to that tech, they're going to try. Oh, I don't think so. I won't argue her importance. Well, it is the biggest variable. Yes, it's something I have considered. All right, I'll let you in on their location. But remember, you're the only one that...
Good to see you.
I can't believe this is happening. You must have gotten the location. I figured they wouldn't be completely forthcoming. If my intel is correct, you can find Shadow Station Epsilon in the Badlands, north of Dazra. I can send you the coordinates. The Shadow Stations were established during the Serpent's Crusade. A series of secret military installations that few knew about, and even fewer may remember. The idea was to have isolated centers focused on different aspects of furthering the crusade. This way, if one fell, it wouldn't endanger the others. Epsilon was once a research station, with a focus on grav drive manipulation. The Zealots have since vastly expanded upon it. But it makes sense if they intend to use Sahima to their advantage. Shadow Station Epsilon is one of many Zealot bases scattered throughout. As I mentioned before, I wasn't willing to risk agent lives in order to scout them all. The sooner the better. Now that we have a rescue mission underway, I'll speak to Merrick about setting up the negotiations. I expect them to be pliable after their last encounter with you. The current plan is to hold them at one of the geothermal power stations. Meet us there when Sahima and the others are safe. If memory serves, it's southeast of Shadow Station Epsilon. It shouldn't be too hard to find. It's a fairly neutral location, and just the right distance from Dazra, so both parties will feel safe. The geothermal stations are also autonomous in nature, so we don't have to worry about unwanted eyes and ears. I see you have a grasp on how these types of negotiations work. I'll stall the Zealots as long as I can, which shouldn't be an issue. That being said, I'd still appreciate it if you could act quickly. Now, Jamal wants an update before you leave. Just don't let her distract you for too long.
Vindicator, a word before you go. Tell me, Vindicator, what do you know about the Zealots? I'm impressed. You've already learned quite a bit from your time with us. The Zealots are widely frowned upon within our society. They're a remnant of the Serpent's Crusade, days we'd like to forget. Has my dear sister given you any history on our house's relations with the Zealots? I see. And I'm sworn to silence. Yes, I'll get to that momentarily. House Kadik already has a reputation for being sympathetic to the Zealots, but the truth is far worse. Razma wants the Zealots to back House Kadik, so the balance of power between the noble houses would shift to us. She's been employing them, paying them in supplies that aid their blind crusade. Razma would believe they want to reintegrate or even reestablish House Maleen, and she's a fool for it. The Zealots want nothing but the means to carry out their war. Credits, weapons, and ships. And these very supplies would be used to harm not only your people, but our own as well. There are several members who are sympathetic toward them or their cause. Some see beyond their extremist veneer and believe they're just misguided. A very small few may believe Jandar truly was the rightful heir, but none would ever admit it. I'm certain it's the case that members of the other houses feel the same. House Kadik is just the only one who's been exposed for it. The council knows nothing of her work with the Zealots, and I aim to keep it that way. All elders have their own ambitions. I'm certain that's all they see. What none of us expected was the disaster that is the Scaled Citadel. The aftermath is what allowed the Zealots to grab Sahima and the others, flipping the balance of power in their favor. Razma has lost control and is putting House Kadik's reputation and power at risk. She only appears that way now because she has you to fix it. House Kadik shouldn't be associating with Zealots at all, except on an extermination level. But worse, we absolutely cannot be supplying them with ordnance of any kind. We need to cut ties with the Zealots altogether. Exposing this information to the council would condemn not only Razma, but House Kadik along with her. I have no wish to tarnish our house or ruin my sister. I simply want to show her the error of her ways. Far from it. I want you to put an end to any connections between House Kadik and the Zealots. And while my position won't allow me to be blunt, I'll still make it clear. Should the hostages not survive, Razma would blame the Zealots and cut all ties. Those few lives will be nothing compared to the lives the Zealots will take if House Kadik continues to supply them. Sacrificing them would open my sister's eyes, quelling any sympathy and desire to work with the Zealots. Once Razma no longer sees the Zealots as an ally, the rest will soon follow. Perhaps you don't understand. These noble houses have existed for generations. The people look up to us to guide them under the will of the Great Serpent. The fall of a noble house would put everything into question. And with the state Dazra is in right now, I won't allow that to happen. What I must to preserve this house. All you need to get is Sahima's research, which she has with her. Are unpredictable, and their passion to their cause often makes them prone to violence. Whether the zealots believe it or not matters little, but Rasma certainly will. Of course not, but in this situation, it is the most effective means to an end. As a mediary, I am constantly weighing decisions based on both immediate and long-term consequences. This decision is awful, I know that. But the far-reaching consequences are worth the sacrifice. The settled systems, of course. They're the Zealots' #1 target with more victims every day. I trust you'll make the right decision. Until then, I'll see you at the negotiations.
Serpent's luck be with you, Vindicator. What would you like to know? As you know, the Zealots are extremists. Whatever desire our people to have to make contact with the Great Serpent, it's tenfold where the Zealots are concerned. After the cataclysm, it wouldn't take long for them to find out what we were doing, and how Sahima may be the key to fixing it. Sahima was once part of a science team that worked directly with Anaska. But, being young, they didn't want to listen to her theories, or, more importantly, her warnings. Sahima's theories may now be the key to reaching the Scaled Citadel, or maybe even restoring Dazra. Sahima is a brilliant mind who's always been a bit on the outskirts of the family. She can be a bit temperamental, but it's mostly due to people misjudging her capabilities. Otherwise, she's kind, yet ambitious. Good. If you have further questions, let me know. So that's what Jamal wanted to speak with you about. If you're insinuating that I care more for power than my own family, you are sadly mistaken. The safety of this house and its people are of utmost priority to me. To be fair, I won't deny that, yes, I would like to see House Kadik become the new Varun. But show me an elder who thinks differently. Hostile or not, they are an effective means to an end, and often the perfect cover as well. We are limited here by our secrecy. But the Zealots are not, for the most part. They're not only our last resort, they're our only resort. Because I see it as a seat at the table, justice for Jandar, the reinstatement of House Malene, any number of unreasonable demands that my house would be incapable of fulfilling on our own. It all comes down to power. The Zealots have leverage for the first time, and they intend to abuse it. Because it's my duty as head of the Ministry of Conjunction, having insider information on the Zealots is vital to Dazra's safety. Good. If you have further questions, let me know. All must serve. Merrick will be relieved to know we're moving forward with the negotiations. Vindicator.
Something I can do for you? The oversimplified answer is yes. The two may be synonymous, but house politics will always take precedent. House Khadik is a symbol, a noble house, and its members are held to a higher standard with greater responsibility. Rasma and I are normally quite agreeable. We've always been like-minded ever since we were young. It's the reason we were groomed for the positions we currently hold. The Zealots are what divide us, much like they divide our house as a whole. I remember it well. Zealots attacked a Highlands growth farm. A weapon left behind was one used in payment for a recent operation. Rasma could accept it as collateral damage. I could not. An innocent family died that day. And it opened my eyes to the greater consequences of working with Zealots. Many within the Ministry of Conjunction are aware of the division. They wouldn't be good envoys otherwise. And yes, it does affect them. When you aren't united, the cracks begin to show. The dissidence grows. Rumors begin to circulate and trust is called into question. Our envoys should know better. But that's how we ended up with the current narrative that House Khadik is sympathetic toward the Zealots. We use similar tactics to navigate the complex waters of Varun society. But most importantly, we share the same ideologies when it comes to House Khadik and the people of Dazra. There is no progress without change, and Dazra stagnates in old tradition. Perhaps your arrival in the Scaled Citadel incident, awful as it was will serve as a catalyst to finally advance our society. What do you want to know? I wish it were the case. This is an ongoing point of contention with my sister, and it never changes. Rasma and I come to agreement, something happens that makes her reconsider, and we're right back where we started. This is why extreme measures, only something truly horrible.